So I kind of missed this story. I mean, this isn't that important of a story. I'm going to be honest. I mean, it has deeper meaning, I suppose. But I figured I'd cover it because it made some waves in the news circles. This one's from 16 hours ago, but I think it happened yesterday, if I remember correctly. This is so I guess Hegseth has uh decided he's not okay with just uh you know dressing up his, like, using the word of God as a weapon to wield and whip people into a heretical frenzy or whatever, to go wage their crusades on the Middle East, right? Now he's tired of just using the word of God to do that. He decided to use instead I think a fake Bible quote from Pulp Fiction this time, to try and, whip all of his crown chewing, booger eating hogs who are in the military, to get them all wound up and ready to go kill some brown people in the Middle East. So let's go ahead and watch this video. Let's see what it's all about. What actually happened. This is Idiotic. Hegseth quotes Pulp Fiction as Bible verse during Pentagon prayer service by MS Now.
Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
Is that a real quote? Someone needs to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's a real quote from the Bible. I don't know every quote. Samuel Jackson said it better, though.
It kind of feels like that, doesn't it, folks? Doesn't it kind of feel like that? Well, Secretary Hegseth, let me share with you another idea or prayer, if you will. It's a little thing called Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 6. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Sir, I duck. The reality of it is,
Okay.
if you want to play in this space,
The problem with the Bible, I mean, a lot of the times, is that you can use almost any Bible verse to justify anything for a lot of cases. There's a lot of good stuff in the Bible. There's a lot of bad stuff in the Bible. You can pick and choose, and that's the plight of man, is to pick the verses they want to pay attention to and throw away the ones that they don't want to care about. It happens all the time. It's kind of impossible not to happen with the human condition. To some extent, like, there's no way for human condition to be completely impartial, especially when the Bible itself is very contradictory. Various parts are, have different, completely contradict other parts and stuff. So it really just depends what you want to look at. So yeah, I don't know. Cool Bible verse though.
if you want to play Sunday school teacher or Secretary of Defense, as Alicia said, giving a bad version of the catechism or religious education, you've got to be prepared to deal with what a pope may have to say, what fellow Christians may have to say in response to that. That's not the space you come out of, obviously.
See, for some reason, I was thinking, okay, I'll be honest. I thought that I didn't watch the video, so I didn't know what he actually said. I thought he quoted, like that scene where Samuel L. Jackson is like pointing the gun at the guy, or not that scene. Like, I thought when he was, like, basically about to kill him or whatever in the house, and he was like, essentially preaching very loudly and angrily right before, I think he killed him. I can't remember for sure. Or maybe he got shot by somebody else. It's been a long time since I've seen Pulp Fiction, probably since like high school, if I remember correctly. But I thought it was going to be that one. So honestly, that was a lot more tame than I thought it was going to be.
But you know, from your work both here in the U.S. and around the globe, and looking at how governments respond in moments like this and what that says to people, what's your takeaway? What does it say to citizens when they hear their government thinking, acting, and behaving this way? What should we be concerned about? Because I don't think people fully appreciate where all this leads.
I think people are aghast. I'm the product of 17 years of Catholic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think so. America's version of Christianity has always been a white nativist, like it's been utilized by the state from its very founding in order to justify, like, for instance, like Manifest Destiny and the genocide of the indigenous people here. So like America's version of Christianity is very like primed. It is primed for any sort of like crusader style, like white nativist, like we must go in and cull the hordes, like all of that sort of violent imagery that can be found in the Bible if you want to focus on it. And so this, I don't think, for the hogs, like for the people who, the right wingers who like are the base of the MAGA movement, this sort of shit rules to them. Like they don't want to hear all that shit about Jesus going around like healing lepers and, you know, like washing the feet of prostitutes, or, you know, like all the stuff that like they would consider woke pussy shit. They don't want to hear any of that Jesus stuff. They want to hear this sort of like fire, like, you know, fire and fury, whatever. Like, so I think that this has a very vast amount of people in America who like listen to it and buy into it to some extent.
Catholic education.
Oh, yeah.
And what Pete Hegseth was throwing down today bears no resemblance whatsoever to the ethos of the Catholic faith or Christian ideals. That was nutso. That really was.
Is Hegseth, is he Catholic? I didn't think he was Catholic. Is Hegseth Catholic? No. Yeah, he's an evangelical Christian. I was going to say, he gives off the vibes of an evangelical Christian. Now, Vance, JD Vance, I know he's a Catholic. He also might be the Antichrist because he killed the last pope or whatever. After the one meeting with JD Vance, the last pope died. So there's that as well.
Also, the U.S. military is a religiously diverse, multi-confessional organization that want to do what they have.
And to be clear, evangelical Christians, they're not very fond of Catholicism. That's the whole thing, is like the separation, Protestantism, and all that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say that they like don't think that they're real Christians or anything. I think that in general, I mean, they don't think that hard about it, but like they would like think they're real Christians, but they don't care what the Pope says or anything. They don't really, you know, they don't care if Trump wants to get in a Twitter beef with the Pope. They're fine with that.
Diverse, multi-confessional organization that want to do what they have to do on behalf of a country, not on behalf of a religion or that perverted view of what he was saying today. And so it just is very, it's idiotic. It's counterproductive at a time when the U.S. military is involved in very difficult operations. To have somebody like Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, not the Secretary of War, the Secretary of Defense, who is using these biblical verses in a very distorted and misrepresenting, in fact, the ideals of Christianity, which is why the Pope has been so outspoken about what is going on right now. And I think most Catholics, those who are, you know, who are practicing their faith, and as well as those who have been brought up in their faith, can see that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are not in any way representing.
Well, if you're Catholic, I mean, the Pope is like the closest person to God. Like you have to follow his teachings or like his beliefs. Otherwise you are like blasphemous or whatever. So like if JD Vance is not agreeing with the Pope or like doing what the Pope says, then that would be like akin to going against God.
Presenting again the ideals of Christianity and the ethos again of the Catholic faith, which is really supposed to be trying to promote peace and love, which is what the Pope was saying. And so, you know, I just, for the past several days, and I just came back from Europe, I've been over there a couple times in the past couple weeks, and I must tell you, people are looking at the leaders of this country, and just being so confused as to this is not what they are used to seeing from American leaders.
Right.
And it really is just putting us in a very bad.
I mean, they should have tuned into my broadcast. I've been expecting this from America for a while now.
light.
What were you doing in Europe?
I was talking to people. I was, briefing folks, and they want to understand exactly what's going on in this country, and also what the role of the United States is on the world stage now, given that Donald Trump has taken a very, very unique approach to international relations, and they want to know whether or not if this is going to be enduring, and also understanding the lasting impact. I want to hear from them how they are now reacting to what's going on here in Washington. What NATO countries are thinking about, how they're going to ensure that they can have the peace and security and stability that they need.
Okay, let me give a little word of advice to my NATO brothers and sisters out there. The U.S. is only going to get worse from here on out. I mean, there's a chance, I guess, that a broad-based working class movement can get a FDR style candidate in there to fix the material conditions of the working class and bring us out of this death spiral into fascism. But the Democrats seem to be doing everything in their power to stop that from happening and to allow fascism to flourish in America. So to all of those people, like, we're not going to stop with Iran. We're not going to stop with Cuba. We're not going to stop with Greenland. We're not going to stop with, I don't know, Australia or whatever we do next. Like the bullying and invasions and extraction of resources are all going to become more prominent and more violent as time goes on. So my suggestion to all of these NATO countries is to diversify your security arrangements, start producing some for yourself, maybe start balancing between multiple world powers. EU in particular needs to form a true bloc that can, like, it would be probably like a middle power bloc if I had to guess. Like, it's even EU combined together is not as powerful as like China or America. But I would suggest just start diversifying your security agreements and your economic and economic ties and all that sort of stuff for an era when America becomes even more belligerent than they are right now. It's not going to get better. Trust me on that.
While the United States is off on this very, I think, disruptive tangent of what our history has been.
Why do you think this has been the red line for so many steadfast Trump supporters, people like Georgia Maloney, who has been very reticent to criticize Trump?
Because it's seen as blasphemous. It's also seen as, the Pope has always represented sort of the goodness of the Christian faith. And, and I worked in the Middle East a lot, and there was a lot of reverence and respect for the Pope among the Muslim faith.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and probably skip. I don't need to hear a full history of the popes. The Pope, there's been good popes. There's been bad popes. For me as an agnostic, they're all just men, and they do the same sort of justifying or not justifying evil or good, depending on who they are, the context of what they live in, the political climate, all that sort of stuff. So